When scaling just a team in general, forget just a sales unit. I think that quality over quantity. If I can get 1 to 2 people that perform like 5 or 6, I will pay accordingly to have that, because I would rather manage 1 or 2 people who are super high performers that have an obsession with the job. But we talk about often, let experts be experts. You got to pay a lot of times for an expert, but the way I've thought about it in the past, other companies I've seen them hire 5, 6 people to do certain role and departments. And I'm just like, if you would have combined those 5, 6 salaries, you could honestly shave some off, go pay 2 people accordingly, and they would outperform those 6. Go get experts, let them be experts, pay accordingly, grow the right way with the right people in the right seats.
Step right up, the jury's in, the courtroom of sales is set to begin. Truth on trial, hear the gavel groan, let's lay the facts, don't go it alone.
Welcome back to Under Oath, where revenue takes the stand. You're new here. Under Oath is the definitive podcast for revenue leaders in the legal industry. We decode the entire revenue engine inside world-class sales teams, vendors, and law firms. From intake to marketing, from leadership to hiring, and the technology that drives it all. We intersect company operations, growth strategy, revenue, intelligence, all of that, and get to the heart of it. How do you grow a revenue engine inside the legal industry? That's what we're here to discuss. Let's welcome back the defense. First, our fearless leader, Zach Ramey, head of revenue at Rankings.io. Myself, director of revenue operations at Rankings, Scott Knudson, and of course our ringer, Cole Castleberry, head of sales at Rankings. Gentlemen, welcome back. It's been a while since we've seen you. Welcome back to the show. Before we get started, does anybody have anything to bring to the bench?
The most important question to have made it thus far. There's only 3 options. Leftover pizza. Do we eat it? Do we heat it? Or do we eat it cold? So the first one is like, do you eat it at all? Because some people won't eat leftovers, you know?
For sure eat it. I make pizza. I make pizza like every week. Like I eat so much leftover pizza.
Scott was offended if that was even an option.
If someone's like, I don't eat leftover pizza, get out of my face.
Yeah, I definitely eat it. I am 90% of the time going to heat it up.
Okay.
So I will only not heat it up if it's Domino's pizza. That to me, that's the only pizza that like cold does just fine.
Did you see Domino's is coming out with a stuffed crust?
Ooh, that sounds amazing.
That does sound amazing.
It does sound pretty good. I'm supposed to be eating clean, but I know it's for dinner tonight.
The other heating up caveat, I have recently become baptized into the to the faith of air fryer, and boy, an air fried pizza really hits way more than a microwave. Like it's just the move.
Not currently aware of any other thing to cook with, so
there's other air fryer. There's other devices in our kitchen. What do you mean?
I don't know what took
air fryers. Those are the 3 things I use.
We are a basketball and a pizza podcast here, just in case anyone's wondering. All right, court is now in session. The charge today, gentlemen, is scaling a team. How do you scale a team? When's the right time? What have we learned from scaling a team? This can be an individual team, whether it's a marketing team. This can be, scaling from inbound to outbound. Any capacity where you think we need increased headcount. How do you do it? What have we learned from our time doing it? What are we currently learning as we do it right now? What can we pass on to our Under Oath listeners? That's the charge, scaling a team. First is our opening statements. This is where we take something from our positions, myself in revenue operations or enablement, Zach in a leadership position, being the head of revenue, Cole in a sales leadership position, running a sales team. What's something we've learned in our various positions around the charge? So in this case, around scaling a sales team. Zach, I want to start with you. What's something you've learned? What's a quick learning or something you've learned recently that the Under Oath listeners might want to learn for themselves?
Yeah, I think that we talk about this quite a bit. For me, when scaling just a team in general, forget just a sales unit, I think that quality over quantity. And then we've cited this on a lot of different things. And I am always under the assumption that if I can get 1 to 2 people that perform like 5 or 6, I will pay accordingly to have that, right? Because I would rather manage 1 or 2 people who are super high performers that have an obsession with the job, and they can do it at a high level. We talk about often let experts be experts. You got to pay a lot of times for an expert, but the way I've thought about it in the past, other companies I've seen them hire 5, 6 people to do certain role in departments. And I'm just like, if you would have combined those 5, 6 salaries, you could honestly shave some off, go pay 2 people accordingly, and they would outperform those 6. Right. And for me, I think that's where my biggest learning has been helping lead sales and now revenue at rankings is go get experts, let them be experts, pay accordingly, grow the right way with the right people in the right seats.
I think it's so easy to run a simple calculation that's just, 10 more sellers, 10 times more sales. It's like, fortunately, it doesn't really work like that.
Man, if you figure that one out, send it on over because I would love to know that one.
Yeah. I think finding those 5X employees, those 10X employees, I think you used the word obsessive, game changing, right? I can think of several sellers, obviously that's the world we live in, who are those types of people. But I've seen other people too, where the way they view problems is they're just thinking about it all the time. You want to bring in those obsessive people. It's like, I could do that. I can do that too. Yeah. I can do that too. And you get them to their capacity, and their capacity is quite a bit bigger than most other people's. And then you go hire somebody, right?
That's it.
Love that. Cole, what about you? What's something that you've learned either, in this job or prior, running a sales team, about scaling a sales team? You've kind of been on that front line of seeing the impact of scaling team. What's something you've learned?
Yeah. You have to have a roadmap for growth today, but more importantly, you have to have a roadmap for growth a year from now, right? What you're doing today impacts what you're doing a year from now. And if you're not thinking about that plan as well, your current plan will fizzle at some point. So example being hiring. When we bring somebody in, we're thinking about what are they going to grow into, because everyone's natural inclination as they're being hired is, what does growth look like? Where's my next step, right? Even if you're looking at the job in front of you today, everyone wants to know what they're running towards. So you have to be simultaneously thinking about both things. How am I scaling today? But how am I also going to scale this a year from now with these same scales that we're bringing in today?
Love that. I'll give a learning that I've found. It's scaling carefully. The people who have accountability for the number should be the ones who are the most invested and have the greatest weight in decision making when it comes to scaling a team. I've seen this happen so many times where a manager is like, "Hey, got orders from on high. I got to add 10 more headcount," and the sellers are like, "We're not even getting enough leads ourselves. We're getting 1 lead a day, right? And we have to go get more bodies, right? Like, it doesn't make sense, right?" Now, there's always going to be some amount of that, right? Where the board or the CEO, whoever, they're going to see the dollars. They're going to, they have this big picture view. Like, they're always going to be applying this pressure. But whoever is in charge of that sales team, whoever's in charge of making sure the numbers hit, they need to scale carefully. It needs to be incredibly thought through. And I like your point, Cole, of like, you need to have roadmaps, you need to have runways, you need to have pathways. All that stuff needs to be figured out. If you just willy-nilly, I'm just going to figure it out as we go. Hey, I got to hire 10, so I'm going to hire 10. Like, you're going to cause a world of hurt for you and employees. Like, and we'll probably get into it. The minute you hire 10 and then realize you got to fire 6 because you overhired, you scaled too quickly, the people who have stuck around, the 6, or the 4 remaining, what's their culture like? The next time it comes around and we got to squeeze. Hey, we're going to get rid of the bottom, 20% or whatever. Like, sorry, our bad. It's like, that's a culture killer so fastly. So if they don't have confidence in your ability to scale, like, you're going to lose the floor, right? You're going to lose that obsessive drive. Like, why would I give 100% to this company who isn't being careful about the way they grow this company?
I think there's a fine line of knowing when to hit the rocket ship button. Right. Last year, I mean, we had to really push back on doubling down on hiring quite a bit, right? Like it was, everybody wants to grow and make more money and bring in more leads. Like who doesn't? Like as salespeople, that's what we crave. CEO, owner, all the way down the line. That's what everybody's here for. Owns a company or on the board of whatever company, and getting the right people in the right place and learning what capacity is and ensuring that you have everything done appropriately to be able to handle that capacity, and then start pressure testing, right? And then once that is there, when we figured it out is whenever the people that used to come to us and say, more leads, give us more, our senior A's give us more, we can handle more, came to us and was like, I never thought I'd say this, but could we give some a little bit?
Yeah.
And that's nothing you never want to say as a seller, but but Cole and I, and Scott, you're obviously privy, knew what we were doing. We were stress testing what we could handle. We were waiting on this is too much. And then our owner, CEO Chris, got to come and say, rocket ship button, right?
Yeah.
Go hire the X number of employees, go hire the X number of BDRs, add a couple senior AEs, and then you get to really live what you've built. If you've built a solid foundation of a house, man, you can start putting up a pretty big one, and start moving pretty fast. So I think there's a fine line between scaling the right way and scaling the wrong way.
Yeah. I want to just really quickly zoom into that, Zach, because I think you're in a unique position. I think I've seen a lot of sales leaders, and I imagine there's a lot who maybe it's up to them. They get the call. Hey, you got to scale, right? And something I've seen you work really well with is you've been able to push back enough to be like, hold on, hang on, let me run this. What advice would you give to kind of instill some of that capacity to build trust with maybe your CEO or your director or whoever it might be, VP? How do you build that relationship so that you have enough? Like, what's some advice or a way you've been able to kind of cultivate that relationship?
Yeah, I think people hear us talk about quite a bit on these episodes, and it's letting experts be experts, right? And you also have to believe that about yourself. I think first and foremost is when Chris hired me to be VP of sales originally, like I was supposed to be the expert in sales, right? Build the team appropriately. And at the end of the day, I'm an extreme ownership type person. If this fails, that's on me. The decisions I made, the people I put in place, always me. Even if I had anything to do with the decision or not, if it was somebody on my team, that's my fault, right? And when somebody in this situation, Chris, comes and says, scale something, I have to be able to stand up and say, I believe that this is what's best for our team, for your company, right? I need to act like an owner. And does this get us more, or does this just get us more people, right? Is it the right people? Is it the right timing? And like you said, I'm always going to do what my boss, CEO, owner says at the end of the day. I am a servant leader. I'm going to do that. I'm not going to go against it, but it's also my job to give the pros and cons and give the pushback when necessary. Am I going to give pushback on every single item that I may disagree with? Absolutely not. Right. But I am going to stand up to where I know this could affect my job. If anybody goes and looks, average VP of sales doesn't make it a year and a half in a role. Right. And I want to ensure that I can always, if I ever lost my job, got fired, I can wake up and look in the mirror and be like, you lost it because of you, your decisions, what you put in place, what your team did. And I always hold that near and dear and make my decisions like that. So while we were growing, I feel like I have a great relationship with Chris and have that autonomy to be able to have those conversations. And he listens to my feedback. I listen to his, and obviously he's the ultimate decision maker on most things. But we have been able to scale this together in a way that I think we both kind of give and take a little bit. And it's where we're at today, right? I mean, we're moving at a lightning speed currently. And I think that a lot of people in those positions just do it because they're told and there's no rhyme or reason behind it. And I think if sometimes you could just pump the brakes just for half a year, you could put yourself in a position to truly succeed. But you got to be, again, I'm going to use the word obsessed with getting it right. This isn't a 9 to 5. This is me and Cole and you working at 9 o'clock at night trying to get our things right. Like, this isn't something we get to figure out 2 years from now. We got to figure it out tomorrow, tonight. And I think a lot of people lose that I'm just going to do what I'm told. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And there's no obsession involved.
You bring up a point here, and tell me if this sounds resonant. Perhaps you could make the case that, you look at most owners, most founders, they kind of are that obsessive. It's their baby. They care about it. They breathe it, right? They're always thinking about it. If you too operate that way, the owners, the people making those big shots, they see that and they say, "Oh, okay, he's in it with me. I'll listen to him," right? If you're not, if you're just like, "Hey, I work 9 to 5. I come in and I issue the commands and hold people accountable, hold people's feet to the fire." Well, if he says, "Well, I want more people," and you're like, "Well, I don't know," it's like, "Well, why you don't know? Like, I know. I'm breathing it, right?" And so I wonder if there's an interesting, like, if you kind of match the tempo a little bit, you're able to have that much more autonomy or discretion or the ability to kind of push back and have that be heard.
Of course. And I think you earned that right too. One of our, might have been our first episode about autonomy, right? You earn autonomy and you may have to do exactly what the boss or the leader or the owner says and do it great at what they wanted and how they wanted. That buys you the ability to get heard more. You get to be a little bit louder. You've earned the right to push back. So I think there's a fine line too of knowing when it's playing that game. And I think that salespeople have that ability to read those situations. We're very blessed to work where we are. And Chris is unlike any owner I've ever seen. I don't know if anybody could match his obsession in winning and building a company. And then that's somebody who you want to work for. So that is just, again, a trickle down that we get to embody and have that autonomy. And I think all three of us on this call are obsessed with winning and building this company. So it's not just one potion that you get to put in. It's many pieces of the puzzle you're putting together and mixing up and then putting together to ensure that, you're winning.
Yeah. Hey, Cole, I want to move on to your perspective here. Sometimes there's like, hey, we're doing really well. We just got to hire more people, right? You find yourself in a position where as your team grows, the capacity to lead and manage and delegate, that kind of comes on you to make those decisions. When is the right time to start layering in those additional frontline managers? Is there? Can you do it too early? Can you do it too late? What have you found to be kind of a successful formula for kind of delegating authority, making sure teams can have a proper level of management and one-on-ones and coaching and all the things necessary for a team to grow?
Yeah, you can absolutely do it too early and both too late. Right? I think everything has a fine balance when it comes to scaling. I will go back to my original point earlier, which is having a plan in place, right? You aren't just grasping at straws on who's going to step up, right? Those people have been progressing towards a role and ready for that next step and maybe even sitting on ice for a bit, right? To step into that role. So I think when it comes to promoting people to leaders or taking on additional seats or delegating, there's been people waiting on ice for those positions. So it's the right time. And now it's time to bring them up or to implement that. I'll also say that as it trickles to growth and scaling, I think if your team embodies a certain mindset, one of our mindsets here is the standard is the standard, right? And when everyone embodies that, it makes scaling so much easier because it's no longer individual goals, it's collective goals, right? We all celebrate the wins, we hurt with the losses, we learn from the hard moments and get better with the good ones, right? Because we're all running as a collective. But that's also goes to a couple episodes we talked about culture. I think that's a super important category of scaling, which is how your culture is impacting your scale and growth. Yeah.
Do you find that, say you promote some people in the middle, do you find that cheapens the culture a little bit? Like you start stepping into bureaucracy where it's meetings and this and that. Like how do you balance that? So as you grow and grow and grow, it used to be like you have full control, you can kind of see everything. Now you have these like people in between. How do you make sure that kind of your vision as a sales leader continues to get met?
Man, maybe I'm just lucky. I don't know. I feel like we're surrounded by such great talent. And again, I think it starts from the top down, right? We get to learn and watch a CEO and owner be obsessed with his business and growth. And then I get to watch a president do the same, who shows up every day. If you pull up his calendar, bell to bell, our president is booked every single day, right? And then to Zach, he's embodying the standard as the standard. And on another episode, he talked about how he has really strong principles, and that carries over into everything he does. So I think it's trickle down, right? When your upper level management or leaders or executive staffs are also in that same mentality, obsessed, hungry, ready to grow, making the right decisions, that trickles down to your frontline leaders, and then your AEs and your team leads, and even your BDRs and the account managers. Everyone here at our org is in a collective growth mindset. So maybe we're just lucky in where we're sitting, but I also think that it makes it really easy for me to delegate, because I know the people that are around me also want the same goal at the end of the day and will hold that same standard that they know Zach expects, Steven expects, Chris expects, all the way up the chain.
So I'm gonna tell you something, Cole. We're not lucky, and I'm gonna tell you why. And well, you might be a little lucky, but we're not lucky. And I'm gonna tell you why. So if anybody's ever read Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blunt, there's a quote in there from I want to say Jack Nicholson or Arnold Palmer, one of the great golfers. And the quote says, "It's funny, the more I practice, the luckier I get." Right. And we've talked about it a lot throughout the episodes, paying people what they're worth, the right few hires, right people, right seat. The reason why we get lucky is we prepare for it. We have great people in these leadership roles and being ready to be leaders because the people we hire are experts at what they do. We're not getting super entry level roles. We're not getting people that are unknowns. Like, we know what we're getting from day one. We pay accordingly to ensure that happens. It's why it's not a question mark. Is this a good fit? Is this going to be a good leader? Are we going to have failures? 100%. We want them. That's how we know that we're pushing the boundaries. But we are lucky because we've practiced enough to get there.
Yeah.
Factual.
Truth. Spoken from the pulpit.
Heard.
I love it. As a team grows, right, there's this velocity that starts to happen, and all of a sudden you have all these people kind of running towards this collective goal, right? The amount of problems that open up because of that, right? It's a small team, lots of easy fixes, or all the problems kind of seem manageable. The bigger you get, all of a sudden you've got new problems, you've got new things. And sometimes they're not problems necessarily, they're opportunities, right? All of a sudden it's like, oh, we're doing here, we got to spin up another team here, and we got to run this campaign over here, and we didn't do this before, and now we got to do this, and that's got to be managed, and we got to track this. And now because we've broke the ceiling, it's opened up like, oh, there's actually these gaps here. When you are managing just the process part of that, right? We're meeting together as a leadership team, or you're meeting with your leaders. What are you doing to help instill them with the capacity or the leadership or the direction to make sure that they have the resources and capacity to kind of always be able to put out the fires, always be able to be thinking about the next steps? Like what's your approach to managing kind of the leaders around you? We'll start with you, Zach.
Yeah. For me, it's always going to be about thinking 2 years ahead, 3 years ahead, right? I want my team that I'm surrounded with to work backwards from that. If we were here, if we were bringing in this much money, when we do get there, what would we have? What would that look like? What do we have to make that happen? What would we have to do to be able to manage it? And I think empowering people or giving them autonomy, whatever words you want to use for it, is having people be like, okay, well, if we want to bring in 300 leads a month, I need double the BDRs we currently have. Okay. Well, what kind of structure would that need? Does that mean we need multiple BDMs? Does that mean we need more key BDRs? Okay, on that many leads, we have 4 AEs. Do we need 7? Right? Like, I also want us to always have a bench of people to be able to go hire. Right? So I'm always employing the people around me. If I came to you tomorrow, Cole, Scott, I want you all to know who you would say who you'd want to hire for a position. Right? Have that in your mind. Be having those conversations. We should never be playing behind. We should always expect the next position to be tomorrow.
This reminds me of an example that something that's happened really recently, where a couple of weeks ago we were in our one-on-one, and I was like, hey, this might be a down the road thing, but it really seems like, we could have, a design person that's more sales focused, right? Like, I know it's not really where we're at right now. Like, we can use your resources, and you're like, yeah, I could see that. Like, but like, we'll talk about it later. And then all of a sudden, as growth started to happen, it was actually like, oh no, this actually makes a ton of sense right now, and that got sped up way quicker than I think either of us intended for or thought it would, right? But the idea was, we're thinking about it by the end of the year, thinking about like, I can foresee this need happening, and getting, that's something that I've been trying to work in with my team and with what I'm doing is, okay, I see the problems now. What will be a problem? How, what can I prognosticate? What can I assume might be a problem, and how do I start making decisions and start planting those seeds so that when those stuffs come up, oh, we've already thought about it. We've already got an exit strategy here. Yeah.
I think a lot of it for being a leader is having the other leaders you're surrounded with thinking like that, and also asking the people that they're working with thinking like that, right? It's not always, the right answer isn't always a hire. Right. And I think that's where kind of everybody's mindset goes to, even as an employee, like, oh, I wish I had an assistant, or oh, I wish I had this person, or oh, I wish I had that person. Like, time is so valuable, but is there, again, we've talked about it in the past, is there software? Does AI fit in this situation? What problems do we write? What would make my workday easier? And I think that for me, I try to empower my people that I'm surrounded by to empower their people to bring those things back. Don't be scared about the ideas. Look out 6 months. What's the problems we're facing? It's small today, but gosh, you see it getting bigger tomorrow, right? And because we've promoted people who bring those ideas forward because they're already acting like they're in the role, the next role that they're gunning for. So for me, I think that it's always thinking like you're a year ahead, 2 years ahead, where you want to get to. Like you just said, envisioning the problems. And I know that might sound ridiculous to say, but it's a real thing. We get in a room and we want to talk about what the problems look like they're going to be. And if we can try to stay ahead of that, we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I think what's cool there is, I remember in December we were in a room together and we said, okay, we want to by Q2 have this gifting motion, and we want to kind of look like this, and we came up with all these like, it can say this and it can look like this, and we kind of just like mapped it all out. This was months ahead, right? But we were pre-planning for like, we want this motion to be hit the ground running, so we don't have to like delay it another 3 months just to figure it out. Then let's just figure it out now. Right. And let's talk about that meeting's perfect and the scenario is perfect. We wanted this gifting motion, but take a step back further. And why did we want the gifting motion? To get the most out of the leads that were currently being called from the active BDRs. It was cheaper to start a gifting motion than just double the amount of headcount we had for more BDRs. How do we get 100 leads that have an 83% show rate and a 20% close rate to a 90% show rate and a 35% by gifting something, right? That was the idea behind it. And now we've started our gifting motions. We're going to be full steam ahead before we originally thought, right? And now we get to start doubling the team from a BDR standpoint. So you get to start adding things in because the money kept coming in quicker and quicker. So I think it's a perfect scenario is that you are trying to gauge out things. How do we make this better from the most economical standpoint possible? Is it another hire? Is it a gifting motion? Is it a different experience? Whatever it may be. All right, Cole, what do you think about it from your standpoint?
Yeah, I think going back to the root question about managing people, it's about having a collective vision. Also starts with, what are your non-negotiables, right? What do we have to have as a team? Maybe it's numbers, metrics, a certain behavior mindset, right? What do we want to see ourselves surrounded by? I think that's a start, right? What do we have on paper? And then also, I think it's very important to let people lead the way they lead and then correct accordingly or grow in that. I think there's a lot of times, a lot of situations get put into a box of this is exactly how you have to do it, but everyone's going to do things slightly different, right? I'm not ever going to be Zach, right? As much as we emulate each other, say things similar, Zach is Zach, I am Cole. I lead a little differently, but I also know what Zach's non-negotiables are from his standpoint. And I know that Jackie on my team, who reports up, knows what Zach's and my non-negotiables, and that translates down. So I think when you talk about how do we let leaders be leaders and employees be employees, and how do we continue to scale, there's a baseline understanding. So I think having a root core non-negotiable methodology, understanding, deliverable, KPI, whatever it is, sets the tone for how your leaders can be better leaders and how your employees can be better employees.
Yeah, I think Cole makes a great point on it, and I think this is where in my past companies people have failed as leaders is setting those standards, and the second you let it slip one time, it's over. You have to be willing to hold people accountable, and it doesn't matter who it is, whether it's the very tippity top or the very, very bottom person. You have to be able to hold people to the standard that you set, including yourself. The second you give an inch, just go ahead and expect somebody to start taking it a mile, because that's just the way of the game. And I think here, Cole, to your point, everybody holds people to that standard, most importantly, themselves.
Yeah. Cole, I want to ask, since you're in the front lines here, has there been anything where, as we've grown, and if you could like rewind the clock back and be like, I wish I would have done this a little bit sooner, it would have eliminated some heartache for me that I'm, dealing with now. There are always bumps in the road and things that, they're like, oh yeah, that didn't quite see that one coming. Is there anything that you wish you would have done as our team has grown that you might be thinking, like, okay, I'm going to make sure on the next surge of employees that we make sure we account for that?
Of course. All right. We're not perfect. I'm not perfect. There's always something to be learning. I love a saying in it, and I've heard it here several times. No one's ever a 10, right? So I'll get to where I'm going here too. But I think one of the biggest learnings that I've had through the experience is having tough questions the moment you think you need to have them, right? I think it's really easy to say, historically they've done this, so I'll expect it. And then that a situation might fizzle, or a process that you're seeing kind of slip, or not following up here in a certain way, but they'll get them next time. I think just addressing things in the moment as they're happening allows us to be the best every step, every day. And also, as Zach said, it holds a standard and a line and a point that you can truly grow from, that if you're letting it go all over the place, you never know really where to point a conversation. So I think one thing that I've learned is just have the tough conversations. That's not always like somebody's doing something wrong type of conversations. Just anything of, hey, the way we're positioning this here isn't as strong as we could. Let's dive into that now, right? Addressing things in the moment as they're there versus allowing things to fester helps scale 10 times quicker.
Yeah, I think something I've learned in a similar fashion in my team is you always want to be asking questions like, so one of the questions that I hate, this is in life, but also in work, that I wish I just remove from our cultural vernacular, which is like, hey, let me know if you need anything. I find it so unhelpful. I think if you're going to ask that, right, there's so many better ways to ask it, where you say, hey, can I help you with this? Hey, can I help you with this? Hey, can I, be specific. Or, hey, I went ahead and I involved myself in this. Like don't put don't put it on them to reach out to you. Like, hey, if you need anything, let me know. It's right. Like they're not going to want to encumber you with more stuff, right?
Scott's calling me out right now, Cole.
What I find to be more valuable than just saying, hey, let me know if you need anything, right? It's something we just say, like we sign off, hey, let me know if you need anything, right? Like what I think is more valuable is just be, in the same way, being direct of like, hey, can I help you with this? Hey, are you happy doing this? Hey, are you finding meaning in this? Hey, is this what you wanted? Right? Just getting to the core of these questions. Hey, are you unsatisfied in any way? Right? If you're asking those questions continually to the people that report to you, and say, hey, is this what you thought it would be? Like, hey, are you satisfied with what you're doing? Right? you can have those real honest conversations really quickly. And they're like, well, I kind of thought this would happen. It's like, oh, I didn't know. Right. If you push that away and you distance yourself too far, just like, hey, let me know if there's a problem that I could fix. Right. Sometimes, Zach, in your case, you're juggling so many things. That's fine. But the advice I would give to anybody is, if you want to ensure that the people as you scale continue to have the capacity to grow and to make a meaningful impact, like, you get involved directly. Don't just wait for the problem to come to you. Like, you get in the problem with them and be like, hey, I want to be in here with you. I want to understand this. Like, help me understand. Right. All right, fellas, we are going to move to our objection part of the show. This is where we take a modern convention, something that's like maybe standard or something that's just accepted as it relates to the topic. So in this case, scaling a team, and we just object to that and we give our reasons why. Cole, I want to start with you. What's an objection that you have as it relates to scaling a team?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to hiring, and I think hiring fast, I object to. I know the wrong hire will derail everything that you have going, right? And maybe not one, but especially when you hire fast and in bulk, I think finding the right person for the right seat is so impactful to an organization. It's something that we say often, right person, right seat, but it truly makes a world of difference. It's something I hadn't experienced until I was at Rankings. And I know that's a factor that helps us scale faster and be the best within the industry is people are happy within their role because they're in the right seat, right? This isn't a piecemealed hire. It is an intentional hire at the right time, at the right pace, with the right potential, and the right pay, as Zach says often. So it's finding the right person for the right seat. That will help you scale much faster than just hiring fast.
Zach, I want to use an example that you did recently that I thought was really fascinating, where you were looking for a particular person and you were kind of filtering through candidates and you're like, just not quite getting what we want. And you kind of had an idea to look at it from a different perspective, and it kind of changed the way in which you were able to find candidates. Tell that anecdote.
Yeah, for sure. So we were actually looking for, I think you brought it up earlier, the designer, right? And what we started looking at, and I'll give Randy his kudos here, is because we came to this conclusion together that we learned is, while I was going through resumes, it's pretty astonishing find, but designers' resumes have pretty strong aesthetics if that is their current role. So we were struggling finding who we wanted to kind of match our brand identity. And come to find out, I went back through the resumes and was looking through, and like the people that were scoring super high scores based on the kind of our algorithm just wasn't in that design role that I wanted right now. And I went back and looked through, and it came to find out, I went through like 90 some resumes and found like 8 or 9 more. And all I did was just start thumbing through them by aesthetics, what caught my eye, because I'm hiring a designer, right? It should catch my eye. Come to find out, I went back, the 8 or 9, whatever number it was that caught my eye, were all currently in design roles. Funny enough. Crazy how that goes hand in hand. So that's how we ended up finding the person we wanted, is going back through and looking at it from a different point of view for the actual hire. A lot of people have experience, but very few are doing the exact role that you like or have very strong experience in that role. So it's just a different way to look at something, and in the client pool or in the candidate pool that we already had in front of us. If we hadn't kind of come to that conclusion, we just would still probably be looking.
Right. And I just like that story, because it kind of showcases, you might think that you have an idea of what you're looking for. And if you're hiring fast, right, you'd say, all right, well, who scored the highest? Great. Well, let's pick the top of those 3. It's like, oh yeah, they're fine. They seem like they could do it. But instead, you slowed down. You said, hold on, let me just thumb through it. And eventually you found a hire that you were thrilled about.
And that's exactly what we did. We went and we tailored these questions to what we thought we wanted. But going back and reading them today, we tailored them to a sales enablement position, not a design position, right? So we were getting all these people with incredible sales enablement experience, which sales enablement was in the title, but it was sales enablement designer, right? And the most important part of that role was design. So it was, I mean, like I say, I'll take the blame for that on how we position the questions. But when it comes back, like, okay, next time I know that I'm looking for a very specific thing in a person, I need to tailor the questions, not to the whole name of the role, but to the specific need of the role.
Yeah.
I love this sentiment, which is it's all right to fail, right? But you just have to make a quick decision on how to get better. So it's quick decisions like that lead to the best success. And I think that's a great piece about scaling is don't be afraid to fail. You just have to be just as quick when you realize that failure to make a pivot decision.
And this is where the standard matters, holding people accountable. Because if you're going to make fast decisions, then you need to have a standard in place to, unfortunately, move people out of the business if they are not the right fit. The second you move fast and standards are wavy, and somebody gets to, come in and now, I don't really know what I'm held to. This, like, your next thing you're 6 months in, and you're like, man, that was the wrong hire. It should never take that long, right? They should know what the standard is from day one, be held accountable to it. Is it the right hire or is it not? Find out quickly.
Yeah, love that. My objection is around culture. I think there is an assumption that as maybe you've built a really strong culture at one stage of your company, and that as you scale your company, the culture will just kind of take care of itself. That's something that I object to. I think that culture can deteriorate so quickly. It can turn into quicksand quicker than you even realize. I've seen this in many a sales org where you have a really strong culture and then a couple key pieces shift and change, and all of a sudden that culture that you had, gone, right? You need to be thinking about, all right, when we hire 4 more people, and when this person becomes in charge, and when they have to report this to this person, and when we have to start reporting on this, and we have to start tracking this KPI, that will change the culture. What are we doing about that? Do we just let that displace the culture entirely? Or do we invest in things to help counter that and to make sure that the culture stays intact, right? We talk about investing in reps, right? Sometimes what that means is saying, Cole, you had this example. We were talking once offline about this, where we were looking at a particular solution, and at the end of the day, it was kind of like it's more important that these guys feel validated, that our sellers get the thing that they want because they want it. In this particular situation, right? We want to make sure that, like, if they're saying like, hey, we want this, we want to do this, right? Even if it's a little more expensive, and even if that's going to be a harder conversation for us, at the end of the day, they're going to feel empowered and they're going to work that much harder because it's what they want, right? In that scenario, as we grew, it made sense to make a concession there and say, hey, even though maybe I would do something differently or I'd make do with, one thing or another, there is good sense to be made here of, hey, in this particular situation, it makes sense for the sake of the culture to make sure that our reps feel like they're being heard, feel like they're being listened to, and are given some amount of autonomy and say in the matter that we listen to them, this time, right, in this particular issue. So I think don't let culture run on its own. Don't assume it's going to just stay the way that it was. I've seen so many leaders who they're just trying to capture the glory days of how it was when there was this young, scrappy company, and they're just not able to kind of maintain that. It grows, it evolves, it changes. But you can help engineer that, and you need to make sure that you have people who are giving you that honest feedback, and that you are investing in making sure the culture stays and the heart of it endures, right? The way that it looks, the exterior will always change and evolve, but that core you can keep intact if you invest in it, if you take care of it, if you make sure that there are enough people connected to it to make sure that it evolves in the right way. Zach, what's your objection here?
Yeah. So my objection would be when people say, we'll worry about it when it gets here. That would be my objection. We're not going to wait for anything to get here. We're going to plan for mistakes that are going to come. We're going to plan for problems that are going to come. We're going to miss some, absolutely. We are going to have to deal with things when they show up. But the sentiment that we'll worry about that when it happens, needs to be taken out of your vocabulary. You should always be getting your team together and trying to predict the future, what's going to happen and how you're going to overcome things and build a bench of hires and be ready for that. I truly believe that people that think that they're just going to take things as they come in most cases are the ones who don't stick around as long. You always have to be trying to plan and fight to get ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this.
That.
Oh, go ahead. Go.
I was to say, yeah, I love that. And I think it goes back to one of our original episodes about autonomy. And Zach mentioned it is, I think if you don't have the autonomy from every person in your seat to have an honest conversation with you, those problems, you might not see them coming. And so when it's there, it's already too late. Right. So planning ahead, key, but also having the autonomy to have the real conversations, have them early, have them fast, and move on. I think all of these are collective. And when done correctly, you're able to scale so much quicker.
I want to just really quickly piggyback on that, Cole, because one thing that I think gets overlooked in that, which is, hey, you need to be able to you need to be able to have these honest conversations. Sometimes the way in which you need to be able to have those honest conversations to get that honest feedback is actually to change your paradigm a little bit. Sometimes that's putting the right leader in the spot who can speak candidly and can demand that kind of feedback. Sometimes that feedback needs to come through a different person. It needs to come through a different channel, right? That's something I experienced a lot in enablement was, okay, I was able to have a seat at the table with sales leadership. And what I was finding when I sat with reps and I talked with reps, they had these issues, they had these complaints, and none of them were being communicated anywhere, right? If they communicated to their manager, the manager, would be like, hey, like, just, we got a number to hit, figure it out, right? And especially outside of that, like, none of it was making the marketing, none of it was making the product, right? And so I took it upon myself to be like, all right, well, I'm going to champion some of this feedback and make sure that the product team understands that, like, hey, this is how the reps feel about this. This is why and why they're not using this. And they're like, oh, we had no idea, right? Same with marketing. It's like, hey, we thought you guys would love this leads in this capacity, would love this. And they're like, no, they don't use any of these assets you're creating. They feel like it's a waste of time, right? And because nobody stepped in to levy that feedback, it went to nothing, right? Like, and everyone just ended up, spinning their wheels. And so I think sometimes the solution is one specific person who kind of gathers everything, some enigmatic leader. That's great if you can have that. But oftentimes the way that looks is actually, hey, this person that I'm choosing to be my team lead, part of the reason I'm choosing them is because they communicate, they have trust built in with the team. And I have trust built in with them. And so something that a rep may not tell me directly because they're afraid of me or whatever, they will tell them, and then I'll get that feedback. And then I'll be able to make actual good decisions around it. So I just think it's important to understand it's multifaceted, right?
Yep, 100%.
Okay, that's going to wrap it up to the end of the episode with our closing arguments. This is really where we're just going to kind of give one bit of, if there's one takeaway from the episode, a bumper sticker, something we want to leave the listeners with, one thing we want to send them away with, again, as it relates to the topic of the episode, which is scaling a team. I'm going to go back to what I talked about towards the beginning, which is scaling carefully. Again, it's very easy to get the orders and to just sprint and to hire because you got to hit a deadline. And I think that if you're not in a scaling position now, but you see those buds of like, hey, we're going to be growing. I see us doing well in the future. You should be now already having those conversations of like, okay, let's just say we smash our number, we 2x our number, and you tell me to go hire 4 people, or you go tell me to hire 10 people. What does that look like? Right? What does our tech stack look like? What does operations look like? What do these roles look like? You should be thinking about that now. You should be having those conversations with whoever you report to now. Be like, hey, let's just say we doubled in size. How would that change my role? What would you expect of me? What would you expect in the landscape, right? Start to understand that now. That's all to say, that's what a careful person would do. They would say, okay, well, I want to make sure I'm going into this planned and prepped and prepared so that when the growth happens, I'm not blindsided by it. I'm not like scrambling and making hasty decisions that, as you mentioned, Cole, can really screw me and could cause me a lot of undue stress and have to climb my way out of a bad situation in order to get back on track. So that's my Scale carefully. Cole, what about you? What's your closing argument here?
Fast decisions, fast failures make for faster growth. So what I mean by that is the faster you make a decision, the faster you'll find whether it fails or not, the faster you can pivot and keep growing. So I think it's about making the right decisions at the right time, but it's also about making them quickly so you can continue to grow and move on to the next topic at hand.
Yeah, not being afraid to fail. But in failure, you don't have a 3-week wake and be like, what did we do? This was such a mistake. It's just like, hey, we failed. It happens. That means
100%.
we're trying. That means we're taking big swings. Great.
Yeah.
What are we doing about it
now? You got to break things to get better, but you will get better by breaking them.
Yeah. What about you, Zach? How would you send us off here?
I'll definitely co-sign Cole's. I think his is spot on for that. But if I had to say my own closing statement would be hire the right people for the right seat. We talked about it a lot on this episode, but be willing to pay the right people for the right seat. You don't need 5 people sometimes. You need the right 1 or 2. Be willing to make that investment the right way. You're already willing to spend the money in that scenario for 5. Take that same money, spend it on 2, and get rock stars. It will move your company further, faster. Less people to be making decisions, which is good. Find people that are obsessed with their work. I think that we have been so successful because we have obsession that lives inside Rankings, and that is put us on a rocket ship, I believe.
If you learned something valuable from Cole or Zach or myself, we'd love to hear some feedback. Send us an email, comment on one of our clips, give us a rating on Spotify, on YouTube, on Apple, wherever you listen to us. And share us with your network. And if you want to be on the show, you think that there'd be somebody interesting to be on our show, send them our way. We'd love to chat with them. That's going to do it for this session. Court is now adjourned.